Hello, and welcome to today's Alumni Success Conversation. This is an exclusive opportunity to hear from our incredible alumni to provide an in-depth look at what makes the University at Buffalo's graduate management programs and its people so unique. My name is Aaron Shaw, and I'm one of two assistant directors of recruitment here at the University at Buffalo School of Management. The other half of that dynamic duo is Rebecca Mueller, who will lead the majority of today's session. There is a third person that we need to meet, and we have the absolute pleasure of being joined today by one of those very special people, Samantha Podlas. Sam, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you for having me, Aaron and Rebecca.
Of course. And to our audience, as you will soon learn, Sam is UB through and through. She has completed not one, not two, but 3 graduate degrees here from UB. And we will hear about each of those experiences and how they played a role in her career and much more. But before I hand things off to Rebecca for the heart of today's conversation, Sam, can you walk us through a bit about your background to kick things off?
Sure, happy to. So currently 3, I don't know, maybe I'll come back from med school at some point and make it a good 4, something like that, and even 4, but we'll see. So I graduated in 2015 from the MSW, Master's in Social Work, in the MBA program. At that point in time, I had aspirations of doing something in the nonprofit sector. So I was kind of wonky because so many people I went to business school with, they're thinking, well, I'm going to go to Wall Street and I'm going to make the big bucks and this is going to be great. And I was more geared towards that nonprofit side of things. I had gotten through the School of Social Work, an internship in a local foster care agency. And that kind of kicked off my passion for that. I had always, kids and animals, I think how can you not go wrong with either of them, working with either of those populations? But I had gotten into the kids side of things. So I was working in a local foster care agency and thought to myself, okay, I'm going to climb the ladder and one day I'll become the executive director of a nonprofit. And got in there full time when I graduated from MSW MBA and just thought to myself, I can't do this for another year, let alone for the rest of my life. Just something that you see a lot of things that people should not be doing and it keeps you up at night. And I just didn't think for myself having any kind of a work-life balance. I knew I would always be bringing it home with me. And I didn't want that for myself, for a future spouse, kids, anything like that. So my mom had said to me, you kind of have always loved to read, you love to write, you love to talk. What about law school at that point in time? So I, took the LSATs, applied, graduated from the JD program in 2019. Went to work for a local law firm, a bigger law firm in Buffalo. Was there for the first almost 3 years of my career. And then kind of like, I feel like this is going to be a common theme, kind of like everything else, I had gone down to Nashville while I was in law school and then again in April and just thought to myself, this is where I want to be. Why not, as my mom has said to me, if not now, when, if not you, who? So I thought to myself, why not try it? So I was working with a recruiter who I had gotten emails with and got a job down at a bigger, I think we're actually the biggest law firm down in Nashville. So I'm currently remote for them. I'll be making the move officially right after the first of the year. And my practice specializes in finance. Sometimes it's a split between commercial, your typical borrower lending type scenarios, or public finance, where, I've represented school districts, municipalities, and various bond issuances, different roles, whether you're underwriters counsel or bond counsel or what have you. Now I'm more focused on that, typical commercial finance. So I'm totally a transactional attorney. I have never once stepped foot in a courtroom in my over 3 years of practice, which is exactly how I want it. So that's pretty much my background. That's me. It's long and it's winding and it's all over the place, but I finally got to where I think I need to be, unless med school happens someday.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that nice overview. So as we just heard, you've earned 3 really impressive degrees from UB here, which is just an incredible accomplishment in itself. Which, as we've just heard, has really led to a pretty remarkable career, professional life as well for you so far. but we have to know why three. It doesn't sound like that was always the plan. Kind of sounds like you tried something and then pivoted for a different area. But can you just explain, what role did each of those degrees really play in shaping a professional journey?
Sure. So yes, definitely not always the plan. I am grateful for it because I think had I not started working full time in social work for a while, I would have said, oh, maybe I didn't do this and I should have tried it. And I was still, new in my career at that point that I was able to make that pivot. So no, definitely not always the plan. I think the degree I professionally don't use as much is the social work, the MSW, but the skills I learned in that degree are transferable no matter where you go. You deal with difficult people, tough situations, regardless of what field you work in. So a lot of those skills that I picked up being in the MSW program and working full time as a social worker for a bit are transferable now when we get into a stressful situations. We're working on a closing that borrower wanted to close yesterday, but bank's not ready to close for a week. How do we manage that? What do we do? How can we get everybody in line? So professionally, I don't use some of the concepts I learned, if you will, in my MSW, but I use a lot of just the skills I picked up there. As far as my MBA, to be honest with you, I think a lot of what I do now, I learned more from business school than I even did from law school, which is crazy. I had a lot of friends who wanted to be in the courtroom. They wanted to be district attorneys, U.S. attorneys, and they needed evidence, criminal procedure, just our straight criminal law, all that. None of that interests me. I think I got my first job at Barclay Damon because they saw I had an MBA and they thought to themselves, oh, she must know what she's doing. She's got some business concepts here. So I think that I utilize that more now, just being able to speak the language and some of the concepts I see throughout the documents I work on, loan agreements, security agreements. So that probably plays more in a role, my MBA, more in my daily life than even my law degree does at this point in time, which is kind of crazy. But I pull skills from all of them for sure.
Excellent. Yeah, we definitely see that a lot with students from all different backgrounds. A business degree is pretty transferable no matter what your industry is in. And that's really a prime example of that. So I kind of want to bring it down to when you were a student here. Now, when you were completing those 3 degrees, you were also a teaching assistant. So can you talk to us a little bit about that experience? What did you really take away from it? Besides, of course, being a great resource for funds, did it really help you, would you say, in your overall success?
Yeah, very much so. I think, sure, the funds are very important, but it really was a way to set myself apart further in the business school. You get your own office that you might be sharing with other TAs, but it's your own office and you're seeing faculty members walk by and introducing yourself, saying, hey, I'm so-and-so's TA, nice to meet you. And they're faculty members that maybe you've had no exposure to until that point in time. Faculty members just that you haven't taken their class yet, or you don't even plan to take their class, period. I, at that point in time, was right down the hall from Frank Kristofiak, who I know has since retired, but right down the hall from him, to walk by and be able to talk to him and catch up with him was just a great experience and different from anything that I was used to, because I had to be in there. I had to be in my office. I had to have office hours. So if nobody came to see me, I'd use it as a way to network further. And as far as kind of how it's helped me, maybe overall success, I think it really was the first scenario that I was involved in, I guess more role that I was involved in, that was a type of mentorship role. I think when you're younger, you're more the mentee than the mentor. And not that I was, a great deal older than anybody in the program, but it was my first experience being a mentor and people coming to me and just saying, I need help. And that's kind of been transferable in, I've been a mentor to the summer associates at the firms I've come from, to the new associates, just being a figure that somebody can come to and say, hey, I'm stuck. Hey, I need help. What do I do? What do you think? Can I have your opinion? And that was really the first time I was put in that role, and it set me up for, roles throughout my career at this point.
Great. Now, kind of elaborating on that mentor mentee kind of experience. You were once a Leader Core student and have now returned to the program, but this time taking on the role of leadership coach. So can you describe a little bit about the life cycle of how Leader Core first benefited you, and then now what your role is as a coach, what that process entails?
Sure. So I was lucky enough. I had Nick Everest as my coach when I was in the program, who is the founder of Leader Core. So I had big shoes to fill when I became a coach myself. But I think the Leader Core program is so wonderful because it's another way that sets you apart from the person maybe to the right and left of you when you're applying for jobs. There's a lot of us coming out with MBAs. But there's a lot of us who are coming out with MBAs who maybe can't hold a conversation or are, not great at adapting to various situations or, don't have those interpersonal skills. So it's just a great way to kind of further strengthen the skills that you already, might be good at and kind of maybe get a little bit better at the skills where you might be lacking. So I'm a big proponent of the program. That's why I came back. And it's obviously different being a coach. Now I'm more kind of involved, as we talked about, in those mentoring opportunities. I am reading over students' logs, meeting with the student various times throughout the semester. But I think I try and bring, which is what Nick brought to me, in just not imposing how I might think or feel about something on the student that I'm coaching. It's my experience might be totally different from the student I'm coaching. I was in Nick's office all the time talking. I have had students who, even throughout the summer, they want to meet every single week and we still go to lunch or dinner at this point. And I've had students who only want to meet with me the times they're required to meet with me. And that's okay. It's all what is best for the student I'm coaching. And, I've kept at it because I've met great people when I was a student, and I've met great students now that I'm a coach, and it's, something I continue to be passionate about.
Excellent. Now, kind of going a little bit further, you spoke a little bit about how you worked on skills when you were a student, and then now as a coach, you're also helping current students kind of work on their skills. So throughout your process, what skills do you find that you currently use most often in your role?
Sure. So I think probably the biggest is, and again, plays to my Leader Core, my love of Leader Core, adaptability, which is one of the competencies, self-management and adaptability, but specifically the adaptability. I laugh because I am very much a type A personality. I have a list of what I want to accomplish every single day, and I get a thrill off of crossing things off my list and completing things. And I've had to really learn, I might have 5 things on my list and I might have to drop every single one of them to get something more time sensitive done, or something that popped up that I didn't think was going to pop up, anything like that. So you really have to learn to kind of roll with the punches and be adaptable to them and just say, all right, I haven't been able to get all 5 things done, but hey, look I got something done that a client was really passionate about and really anxious about, and I got that done for them. So that is an accomplishment in and of itself. So I'd say adaptability is a big one. Organization, kind of playing to the same, what I've been discussing. You need to really know where, especially when you're more junior on the deal teams, you need to know where you stand with a lot of the pieces of a deal. People are coming to you saying, hey, I can't remember, where do we stand on this? What have we gotten out? When did we get it out? When did it come back? So you kind of need to be keeping track of that. And it also comes into play when I might send an email, and just because I sent that email, it's not checked off my list until I get a response to that email. So you really have to, I'll calendar forward and say, hey, if I don't hear from so-and-so by this date, I need to circle back around, and try and get a response to the original email I sent. And last, people skills. I mean, even though I am not in a courtroom, in front of another attorney, a judge, and a jury, it's still dealing with different teams, borrower, if I'm lender counsel, borrower counsel. When I was bond counsel, you might have underwriters counsel and various counsels that are all coming together and trying to get a deal done. And it's nice because we're all working towards the same goal rather than I win, you lose, I win, something like that. But having the people skills to just know that what we're doing is very sophisticated work and being patient with people and, meeting them where they are and trying to get the deal done at the end of the day.
Excellent. And you can learn a lot of those types of skill building while you're going to graduate school. So if you don't have those skills right now,
Yes.
just like Sam has been mentioning, through Leader Core, through just talking with your faculty members, you're going to be able to really learn those skills. So sometimes students come in and think, oh my gosh, how do I get those skills? You will get them throughout your process while you are going through your program.
And even then, Rebecca, really, it's even, that's the foundation. And that's when you can really learn and make the mistakes and figure out where you are and where you want to be. But it's sometimes I got stronger at them when I actually started working day to day. So you start building that, and the School of Management gave me those tools to build and to make the mistakes and be okay with making the mistakes. And then you just, as you said, you keep building and you keep learning and you keep growing once you get out of, the School of Management or the School of Law or wherever you find yourself, and you're working every single day at it again.
And that's a great point, Sam. Thank you for bringing that up. It's just because you're working on skills in grad school, you are constantly learning, and I'm sure you're learning new things every day, every year as you progress. So it's a constant evolution where it really can just kind of start here in grad school. So that's a wonderful point. Now, Sam, you've mentioned kind of very organically these couple of mentors that you've had throughout your time in the program and even after, but we know that mentors, just like skills, those are also consistent. You're constantly getting new mentors. So how would you say that mentors have influenced your life, and potentially what's some of the best advice that you've received from your mentors?
So I have been very, very lucky to have mentors. I want to say even probably starting when I was in undergrad, and then they continued through each of the various programs I was in, and they've continued to this point with my career. I think they're just a resource, more of, I guess, and they can be formal if you prefer that, but just a more informal, for me, resource that I can step away from. Maybe I had a hard day and I can text somebody who's my mentor and just say, hey, I'm feeling crummy today. I had a tough day. What do you think? Do you think I could have done anything different? What would you have done in this scenario? It's somebody to really bounce things off of that are outside of, maybe work or the degree program you're in, what have you. And they can be inside too, because I've had both, but now I'm more moved into mentors who are in my career field. And it's just a person that you can really bounce anything off. That's really what I would say. And some of the best advice that I've gotten, I think two things. I would say, get comfortable being uncomfortable, because Rebecca, like you said, I still learn something new every single day, if not 3, 4, 5, 6 things, every single day. It's just, you have to get comfortable just saying to yourself, I don't know all the answers. I'm not going to know all the answers, but let me be smart about who I can go to kind of figure out the answers. So, get comfortable being uncomfortable and kind of just be kind to yourself, sort of playing off that same theme. You're not going to know everything coming out of business school or law school. You're not expected to know everything. Don't be too hard on yourself because of that. If you know one more thing today than you did yesterday, to me, that's a win. And that's the most important thing. And if you're always open to learning and to growing, be kind to yourself and follow that journey and let it kind of transpire organically. And don't be hard on yourself when maybe you take a step back, because the next day you might take 5 steps forward, and that's all that matters.
Absolutely. Now, talking a little bit about challenges, like you said, when you graduate with any degree, you don't know everything. So what were or are some of the prominent challenges that you have faced or you overcome as being in particular, being a woman leading in your organization and industry?
So I think the biggest thing, Rebecca, is that for whatever reason, a lot of what I do, I am the only woman in the room for a lot of it. And when I was in my last role at my last law firm, when I got into the public finance side of things, what was interesting about that was we were a team of all women, which is really the first time I had any kind of experience with that in my career. So this kind of standard commercial finance, a lot of times, especially starting out, now it's a little bit different. The firm I'm at in Nashville, I think there's more women than men, which I think is wonderful. And I love that. But when I first started, and when you're sort of uncomfortable being so new, I was regularly the only woman in the room. So that kind of brings into play, how do I speak up for myself? When do I stand up for myself? Is maybe some of what I'm feeling, is it me? Should it be happening? Is it okay that it's happening? What do I do about it? That kind of, play that you're trying to figure out how to work through that. Maybe you say something and you're dismissed because you're the only woman in the room at that point. So, again, I had to kind of lean on my mentors and run scenarios by them and just kind of say, hey, I'm the only woman who's sitting at this table or who's sitting at this business lunch. And this came up. What do you think about that? Is this okay? Would you have done something different? I think it's getting much, much better. Like I said, when I transitioned into public finance, my whole team was women. And now at my new firm, we're more women, I want to say, than we are men. But I think in a lot of, at least what I do, this typical like finance, there's just not a lot of women in finance still, at least from a legal side of things. So you just kind of I've had to figure out when to speak up, when it was, not worth it, but I guess when it was something to fight for rather than maybe just something internally for me that maybe somebody else wouldn't experience. So yeah, knowing when to speak up was one of the, hardest things I had to learn, as well as I think not taking something so personally, kind of playing into the same thing, Rebecca, in that maybe I didn't like it, but maybe it was part of my growth. Maybe somebody was saying it to me because they wanted to, they knew I could be better than I had been in that scenario. So not taking it as personally, even when you might be the only woman there.
Great. And as you know, lifelong learning is something that we've touched on a little bit just during this conversation. So is there anything that you do in your personal time that helps you to become a better leader in your career?
So I read constantly. Sometimes they're the, trashy, for lack of a better way to put it, not books that you're just like, hey, I can finish this in 2 days because it's, it's got a great plot, what have you. But, I'm just always reading, and it can be books, it can be the news, the local news, the national news, what have you. Always reading, always trying just to learn, because I think through all 3 of my degrees and just in general, you meet a variety of people throughout your life. And when you're able to connect on, I don't know, maybe something you saw on Yahoo, if I still read Yahoo, I don't know if that's what, but it's something you saw on Yahoo, and you can connect over that person is going to remember you, whether they're just remembering you because maybe they're going to refer business to you, or they're remembering you to say, hey, I've got a daughter, a niece, somebody who is thinking they want to maybe have a career like yours. Would you mind sitting down with them for an hour and talking about your experience? It's those little things, those little connections that I don't think, for me personally, I can't stress them enough, because it just sets you apart from, the people, on the right and left of you that other individuals are meeting. And then I spend a lot of time with my family, and Aaron and Rebecca, we were talking about him before everybody got on. I have a little 10-pound toy poodle named Romeo, who I spend a lot of time with as well. And that just helps, to be a leader, because it recharges me. I'm able to sit here and step back from work and those types of responsibilities and kind of center myself again and say, all right, let me take tomorrow by storm. I had 10 minutes with Romeo. Now I feel better type thing.
Absolutely. We talked a little bit about the different skills that you can have, but I want to talk a little bit about leadership traits. There are so many that we could really touch on. But for the purposes of today's conversation, how do you feel that traits like empathy and vulnerability really play a role in your leadership?
So, to me, it's something, especially the vulnerability, something that I find myself working on every single day, because I don't think it comes natural. For me, it never did. To me, I looked at vulnerability in a way as weakness. If I'm sitting here and getting upset or asking for help, then I'm weak because I don't know something, or because, I experienced some emotion and, everybody else has just remained stoic. But for me, being vulnerable, speaking to the vulnerability side of things first, being vulnerable is, I think, when I've had the most learning experience, the best learning experiences throughout my career thus far, when you're able to take a step back and say, listen, I've been sitting looking at this for an hour now, and I'm no further ahead. I don't know what to do. I need help. And that's when I have learned and I have grown, because maybe it was internal. And, the partner I'm working for was thinking to himself, hey, why isn't she asking? This is new. I know it's new. Why isn't she asking for help? And then we're starting that dialogue, and I'm not making the same mistake twice at that point. So the vulnerability side of things, again, something I work on every single day, but I think it's when I've had some of the best learning experiences, because it opens a dialogue, and, you might find that you're learning something new that you didn't know the day before, which is always wonderful. And then, speaking more towards the empathy, I think maybe it's the social work side of me. That side, I don't personally feel I struggle with. I just think remembering to be empathetic and remembering that we're all human and we all have struggles and we all go through hard times just makes you a better leader, in that people aren't afraid to come to you, and they're not afraid to say, I'm struggling. What do you think? And that, I think, none of us are immune to that type of thing. So when you're open to somebody coming to you and talking through that with you, I think you form a stronger bond, whether it's as a leader, mentor, or a, mentee, or whatever side of it. You just form a stronger bond at that point, when you're keeping in mind that, I was just in, say I'm talking to a first-year associate. I'm only a fourth-year associate. So keeping in mind, I remember what it's like to be a first-year associate, and it stinks. It's not easy. You're always, uncomfortable, and you don't have any confidence, and you're trying to figure out which end is up. So to remember that and maybe make somebody's day a little bit better because you have remembered that, to me, you can't beat it at that point.
Definitely. Empathy is a huge piece, and that vulnerability, which is already kind of some built-in advice for those folks who are watching. But can you maybe give us some advice or strategies that you may have, whether it be for women or men, really anyone that is leading or aiming for a leadership position?
So going back to kind of what I, first, and to be honest with you, my mom said to me, I'm a big, as she said, if not now, when, if not you, who. No matter who you are. I have a younger sister. She's 13 years younger than I am. She texted me, she wants to be a vet. And she said, there's this internship in Lexington, Kentucky. I just don't think I'm going to get it. Why would I apply for it? And how do you know you're not going to get it? How do you know that you're not going to be chosen for that job, that role, that opportunity until you go for it? There's nothing wrong if you don't get it. It's a learning experience. But you have no clue what could happen. If you would have told me that Nashville was going to have any interest in an attorney from Buffalo, New York, I would have told you you're crazy. But I went for it. I applied for it. And they said to me, you are exactly who we're looking for. A mid-level attorney with your experience. You are who we want. And I never would have known that had I tried it. So I think for men, women, whatever experience you're looking for, whatever degree, whatever job, whatever role, try it, because you don't know until you do try it. And it might totally change your life when you do try it at that point. And I think that's fantastic. And I think also just kind of playing on the mentor side of things, Rebecca, I like to say lift as you climb. So, you know, I was lucky enough, as we talked about, to have a lot of mentors in my life who took me under their wing, blazed the trail for me, and said, you know, I want to pay it forward and I want to help you. So remember those people. And then when it comes time for you to maybe be a mentor for somebody else, jump in, dive in with both feet, and don't look back, because you know, you might be changing, as I think we said it before we started rolling, but you know, I might be changing somebody's life, making somebody's life just a smidge easier. And that if I can do that for you, and if you can do that for somebody else, I think that's a wonderful side of things. And I think you need to remember that as you continue to climb the ladder.
That is some wonderful advice. And you had just some really great feedback, some really great answers to all of your questions. So at this point, I'm going to pass it back over to Aaron to see if we have any questions from our audience.
Sure. Thanks, Rebecca. And thanks, Sam, for
Mhm.
just the wonderful conversation, thoughtful answers, and the insight into your experiences, not only at UB, but how they've intertwined throughout your career as well. As Rebecca just mentioned, now is the time to our audience members that are joining us here live. If you have questions for Sam, please feel free to unmute your mic or utilize the chat box.
I'm a fast talker, Aaron and Rebecca. We got it done quick.
Hi there, I'm Hitvi here from India.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Yeah, it's really great to hear from you, and it's really great that you have so many degrees, because I have also tried to achieve such kind of degrees in India, and try to have so much of confidence in me so that I can have all these experiences and give something in return to my country. My major question is that what kind of differences we generally see between pursuing your education from a state university and from the private university.
I'm sorry, from a state university, or it cut out on my end. I don't know, Rebecca and Aaron, but it cut out on my end. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the question is comparing and contrasting your educational experiences within a state university. And actually, Sam is uniquely qualified to answer this question, as she attended undergrad at a private institution.
Yes.
So I guess comparing and contrasting your experiences between the state environment as well as the private environment.
Yep. So I think for me, I got a lot more opportunity at UB than I did from my undergrad. That's my personal experience. You know, I have a younger sister who goes to a private school, as a private undergrad, and she's like joining horseback riding clubs. So I don't know, maybe that's a different scenario. But for me personally, I thought I got way more out of UB than I did for my private undergrad. Both in that I think you have access to more resources, more TAs, more career resource counselors, more facility. You know, I know UB has 2 huge libraries and whatnot, whereas my undergrad, it was one small little one, and that was great, what have you, but more resources, but also just a larger population. I met so many more individuals at UB than I did in undergrad, just because there were more people to meet. And I think for me, I'm very extroverted. I will meet you and I'll talk your ear off for 30 minutes at that point. I loved that. I loved being, you know, so my degrees, literally, they're all in like one little corridor at UB. So, you know, the business school is kind of across the street from the law school, and then the School of Social Work is kind of shared both spaces, but mainly next to the business school. So even when I was just in business school, I was able to sit here and walk across to the law school and say, hey, maybe, I don't know, is this something I might want to do? So I think for me, it just opened my eyes to what's out there and what I could get involved in that I maybe wasn't able to get involved in when I was an undergrad.
Thank you so much. I have one more question.
Of course.
Since I've completed my Bachelor's of Law from India, and I'm planning to apply for MS in Finance in UB. I've also got my I-20. So my major question is like, this law in India will help me to grab more opportunities and will be a good blend of law and finance over there.
So over here in the US, is that what in the US you mean?
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
yeah, since I've completed my law here,
Yep.
and I'm going to complete my MS in Finance there
Yep.
in UB. So will it be a good blend in US, as in the opportunity wise, the career wise?
Yes, very. Are you looking to do more finance related law rather than say, I don't know, criminal law or some family law? So are you looking to stick with in the financial sector?
Yeah, like more of financial sector. Yeah.
Okay, then 100%. I think I touched on this a little bit, but I do not think I would have gotten my current role if they did not see MBA next to my name and on my resume. I think you still have to kind of figure out how it all works together. But I think if you're looking to kind of stay with some sort of type of business services, business law, that is a great complement for one another. I think you're going to have a lot better, you're going to have more opportunities, if you will, to kind of explore that coming in, getting your MS in finance, already having your law degree. I have a feeling you're going to kind of be like me, and that people are going to say, oh, look at, she's got an MS in finance now. She's uniquely qualified. Let's hire her. And I'm keeping my fingers crossed for you that they do. And I'm, happy to talk further about it offline as well, but 100% that I think they will complement one another. And obviously I'm a big proponent of multiple degrees just based on the ones I do have. So I think for your particular career path, for sure.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Fantastic questions. Thank you for asking, Sam. Thank you for the answers.
Mm-hmm.
We are running short on time at this point, though, so I'm going to take this opportunity to wrap up here for today. As we've heard, this is a very special place with very special people leading to extraordinary opportunities. And when you choose UB, you're immediately introduced to a vibrant community that is culturally diverse, internationally minded, and committed to your career advancement. Your classmates, faculty mentors, professional staff, alums, and industry connections become your community, supporting you during your program and long after. We call this your UB Forever Network. And you can all now consider Sam to be one of the first people in your UB Forever Network. So don't hesitate to reach out and continue your B School journey. We look forward to the potential of welcoming you to the UB School of Management.